Welcome back to WHDT World News. We're talking with a former NSA contractor. His name is Wayne Madsen, and he's now an investigative journalist covering this spy scandal that is currently taking a lot of headlines across the nation. Wayne, you were at the NSA. What kind of secrets did you have to keep? What were the levels of classification that you had to adhere to? And what drives somebody like Snowden to come out?
Well, I was at the NSA during the Reagan administration. One of the things I had to help implement was a very unpopular National Security Decision Directive, number 145, which was drafted by then National Security Advisor Admiral Poindexter, one of the people involved in the Iran-Contra scandal, along with Oliver North. And what Poindexter was interested in then was they wanted to create a new category of information called unclassified but sensitive. And this is where NSA and other intelligence agencies could go out and just put that stamp on unclassified information, including that which was held in databases. In those days, it was all dial-up type access. There were two in particular, LexisNexis and Lockheed had one called Dialog, and our job was to go out and try to get them to provide us with a list of their customers to use that as a reason to say, look, the Soviets are getting unclassified technical and scientific information, therefore we need to justify this. Well, a protege of President LBJ Johnson, named Jack Brooks from Texas, he found out about this and he killed that in a big way. So my first exposure to NSA was actually involved with something that some members of Congress thought was illegal or unconstitutional anyway. One of the things I heard when I was getting ready to leave the NSA environment was they had a plan called total hearability. They wanted access to everything. And again, in those days, it was largely pre-World Wide Web, but they were talking hearability. They wanted to hear all communications in the world. And I found that to be somewhat troubling, but then I left the NSA. Anyone who works there has access. They do a special background investigation, and you have access to what they call compartments. It's called sensitive compartmented information. And depending on what your job is, that determines what compartments you have access to.
So let me ask you this. Was Snowden, was the documentation that Snowden released, was that unclassified but sensitive?
No. After 9/11, they actually did bring about a caveat classification of information called unclassified sensitive. But what he had access to as a system administrator at NSA Hawaii was a whole range of cross-compartmented intelligence, and this was what we've seen with the classifications like top secret STRAP, which indicates intelligence based on communications intercepts, and there's other caveats included among all these documents. But yeah, it's the information itself is considered higher than just top secret.
Wayne, will America ever regain the privacy that we once enjoyed?
Not without a radical restructuring of our intelligence community. And I used to think, with NSA, maybe it just needs to be reorganized. But I think the only way you reorganize NSA is to shut it down and start from scratch. The same thing you would do with the CIA. Senator Moynihan, the late Senator Moynihan of New York, advocated getting rid of the CIA and putting it all back under the State Department, where it once came. And I think the same thing has to be done with NSA. It needs to be scaled back to doing military intercepts, and it needs to get out of the political and economic intercept business entirely. And then if they find out they need that capability, they have to go in for authorization. But NSA is a self-perpetuating monster now. It continuously builds on itself.
Now, Wayne, last question. What do you think the future of domestic spying will be here in America? Do you think that any of these bills that are being introduced will have much success?
No, because it's all window dressing, and as we see with this idea of creating an appointed presidential appointed NSA director subject to Senate confirmation, I don't think it's going to do much good. The future is that we're going to see more surveillance built inside of every communications and computer product that we buy, and it's going to become much more miniaturized, and we're going to see the miniaturization of surveillance mechanisms, including drones. Now they're down to the size of insects. I think they're going to get even smaller than that, and we're going to become a total surveillance society unless we throw out these NSA and CIA sycophants in Congress and replace them with real people who will do real oversight.
All right, that was Wayne Madsen from WayneMadsenReports.com right here on WHDT World News. Stay tuned. We have the rest of today's headlines. We've got all the news from Hollywood, California, and a full report on the weather. Stay tuned.